Welcome. It's Seth Guru Podcast on the Makers Bar Network, where we're creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. My guest is one of my favorite people. I've had him on once before. I'm glad he was able to make time for us today. He is the Dr. UnDoctor, and I love calling him Dr. Fred. He has a podcast, and he is the owner and CEO and founder of Welcome to Humanity. And today, my goal was to be able to talk about men's mental health and an event that he has coming up that I think a number of people will be very interested in. Dr. Fred, thank you so much for joining me today.
Seth, it's just wonderful to be with you again. I look forward to today's conversation and see what unfolds.
Absolutely, for sure. So, Dr. Fred, just remind our audience a little bit about your background and why you came to this conclusion of being the Dr. UnDoctor.
Yeah. So, my background is I'm a psychiatrist. I think that's what people want to hear first, is this idea that somehow I earned that degree of psychiatry by going to school long enough and graduating from sitting in a hard chair long enough, staring at blackboards and people who were saying things that I didn't understand. I mean, that's, if you do that long enough, then you get a degree, and then you get a degree, you get to call yourself a doctor. And then after that, you get to walk around with all the accolades of what it means to be a doctor. And sure enough, that's what I did. I did that in Chicago, Illinois, and right downtown in Chicago. I was lucky enough to go to school in downtown Chicago, and I just love Chicago. And I landed there, as you might recall, I landed there in 1984, and there was another man who landed there in 1984 as well. Number 23 landed there the same year I did. And so we got to be pretty good buddies. I mean, I spent a lot of nights at the Chicago Stadium watching Michael Jordan play his games in his first 4 years. And I had season tickets while I was in medical school. And that's what it was, in the streets of Chicago, where I really learned how to be a doctor. It wasn't in the medical school, I mean, the idea was, and what was it like to be a doctor? Well, what it was is like opening up the pathway for other people to find healing of some sort. That's all I'm really interested in. I mean, I didn't know that I'm supposed to be interested in something else, actually. That's all I really wanted to do, is open up the pathway and create a clearing for people to find a way to have their life get better, to heal, to cure, to rid themselves of illness, whatever that is,
And real quick, doctor, so healing looks like rid themselves of illness. If you can elaborate on that also, because I think people don't understand some of the healing and what that's defined as while you're doing your origin.
Yeah, I think that healing, I mean, I don't know. I don't know really what the definition is, for Merriam-Webster. But when I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, when it finally came to my realization that I was going to be a doctor come hell or high water, what that was at least the dream that somehow by being me, I could create a pathway for the people around me to have their life get better. I mean, that's really what I wanted to do, is to create the possibility of the removal of illness. That is the dream. Why do you go to a doctor? So I don't have to be sick anymore. That was how I was taught. It's how I was programmed. It's how we were programmed, that that's what doctors are for. So I kind of thought that that's the way it should go. And I think that in the streets of Chicago, and beforehand, I had been in the streets much of my life, and I do best when I'm out of bounds. That's what I've noticed recently. I play my game out of bounds, and I am at home out of bounds. And what I mean by that is, I saw early on that school was kind of crazy place to act like you're learning something. How can you really be learning something sitting in a chair watching some so-called teacher authority do some stuff that you're supposed to do just like him in order to get to the next grade? I don't know why that would be called learning in the first place. I have no idea. If you're going to learn something, you're going to have to go do it and then see what it feels like, what the experience is, and how to improve, and what not to do and what to do. And, experientially is really the only way to learn. And so when I went into medical school, which, came on the back end of some very cool stories as well, I suppose, which the idea was that I had dropped out of school. I dropped out of college because it was so stupid. And I got on a bus and went across the country to Berkeley, California after, I started the University of Michigan. And I went there because it was the closest school. They had some cool helmets. And I was like, I don't know, let's go see if that's a place that we can play. And so
cool helmets, cool helmets.
Yeah, cool helmets for sure. That was a really important piece. And I knew that I could go to the big house every Saturday if I was a student. So again, it was kind of like a sports draw. But it was also like, the campus of University of Michigan. And I lasted for like a year and a half. I got way into Ann Arbor, not so into school. And it was time for me to leave. And I dropped out and, went all the way to California to figure out what my life was about, and spent the summer in a youth hostel in Berkeley, California, and learned a lot about my life, but it was unsustainable. And then my brothers, and I had 2 older brothers, and my parents, they told me that I probably had the aptitude for this up and coming institution or the up and coming industry called computers. I was like, yeah, I maybe could do that. So back to Michigan, I went to the only computer in all of Michigan, which was on the Michigan campus, and was like punch cards and batch jobs and BASIC and Fortran and COBOL. I was like, not happening either, bro. I'm not doing that the rest of my life either. And so I left again. And I got a job in a mental health institution, a state hospital for adolescent boys, essentially. And my mom told me I had to get a job. I was ready to just go hitchhike, or I don't know, go figure some stuff out. I don't know. She said, you got to go get a job. I was like, okay, I'll get a job. And there was a job opening up at this facility, and they had orientation for 3 weeks. And that's why I took the job, because I knew I could get paid full time for 3 weeks if I just go to orientation, and that would give me 3 paychecks, and that would be enough money to buy a car, and then I could buy a car and then drive around the country and figure out what my life is about. That's really what I was intending to do. And on that 4th week, my friend Paul, he convinced me to go to the floors, and it just like, go try it one day. It's like, I told him I was going to quit, and he's like, you can't quit. I'm like, watch me. And he's like, oh, you can't quit. I was like, but so we went up and tried out the floors, the 17-year-old floor. And I was so scared that first day. I was like, I can't do this. These guys are going to beat me up. They're tougher than me. They're stronger than me. They're meaner than me. I can't handle it up here. But sure enough, I survived. And then, I decided after a couple of days, I could do this for about 3 more weeks. You see, you get a pattern here. Like if I do it 3 more weeks, and I get a later model car, I could then like take a later model car and then drive around the country and figure out what my life is about. So 3 more weeks, no problem. Here's the deal, Seth. I've been waiting for 46 years for those 3 weeks to come.
Oh, wow.
It's been a series of, I'll do this for 3 more weeks for 46 years. And it's real. That may sound like kind of funny or poetic, and it is. Of course, it's not exactly 3 weeks, and of course, it's not every 3-week chunk where I'm thinking exactly 3 weeks. But this idea of being on the fringe, I got to go. This is bullshit. This doesn't work for me. I can't keep doing this. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't align with my values. That has been a big, big, big issue for 46 years, for sure. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about how did I become the UnDoctor, I don't think I ever really became the doctor. In some ways, it was like, I walk out of medical school. I went back to medical school because I hated the way psychiatry was going.
Why?
Because I could see that there was restraints and constraints and pathologizing and calling people wrong when they're unhappy, or if they're unhappy, even legitimately, there was something wrong with them. If they were scared, it was something wrong with them. If they were uncomfortable or distracted, it was something wrong with them. And then we would give them these diagnoses and treat them as less than human beings. And then after that, we would, we'd call up the psychiatrist if Jimmy and Johnny got into a fight or something, and he'd come down and he'd talk to Jimmy for like 4 seconds and Johnny for like 5 seconds, and then talk to us for like 7 seconds. And he'd go into the nursing station with this weapon, and he would write something in the chart, and then we'd have to go retrieve Jimmy and Johnny and hold them down on the ground and pull down their sweatpants enough to give them an injection of some, surefire sedative cocktail, which, by the way, happened hundreds of times this morning in multiple hospitals around the country. This hasn't slowed down. This is not something that used to happen. We don't want people to think that there was ever any days off between then and now, because there were no days off. This is still going on at the same level. I didn't like that. I didn't like that we would create a stupor in these children, and then the next day we would write that that the meds were effective or something, that they worked. No, I didn't like that. So I went.
Real quick, Dr. Bray, why do you think that happened? What led us to that? If you don't mind, a small segue.
Why do we stay there day after day now? Same question.
Oh, okay.
We could stop.
And actually, I think that's a very important part. Why do we?
Because everyone believes in it. What else are we supposed to? We're all at the phase. We've all been programmed to believe in it. We've all been programmed that that's what they deserve, that that's what they got, that they earned it, that they did, that they're less than, or that the only way to quiet a screaming dog is to put it out of its misery. It's like, it's not very common that people look at psychiatric patients at the same level that they look at their family, for instance, or the same level they look at their friends. They see that there's something wrong over there. And then, these patients, they're not looking to be held down and be given injections of cocktail sedatives. That's just something that we have chosen to do. And there's a lot of violence involved, and there's a lot of counterproductivity involved. And there's some sort of theory that because, if they're screaming on a unit, let's say some shit goes down on the unit, at least in their head, or probably for real, by the way, most of the time it's not in their head. Most of the time shit went down. I'm just telling you.
Okay.
We like to say they made it up. They became agitated or something like that. Hey, damn right. They became agitated. If you would have been them, you would have got agitated too.
For real.
So of course they became agitated. Look what you did to them.
Absolutely.
When we start looking at that reality, then things shift around. So I don't think I ever quite joined the team. I don't think I ever really fully joined the team. I think I joined enough to wear a white coat, have my name embroidered, have my own office, have up 2,000 patients here in an outpatient office, be able to work in multiple nursing homes and multiple hospitals and multiple rehab clinics and multiple partial hospital programs, orphanages, homeless shelters. I've worked in all these places. And after I graduated medical school, they were asking me to do exactly that. I mean, if you look up psychiatrist right now in like a dictionary, they'll say that we have two jobs, and that is that we diagnose and we medicate. Now, I don't like doing either of those things, and I never did, but that's exactly what a psychiatrist is. I could see that it was the writing on the wall, and that's where it was headed. And I went into the field out of heroic, basically. Like maybe I would be able to make sure that conversation and communication and connection were at the heart of the healing, because I had learned over time when I was a little kid and when I was a medium-sized kid and when I was a big kid and when I was a student and when I was a doctor, when I was a man, when I was a father, when I was a husband, there's nothing more powerful than human connection. Come on. There just isn't.
What gave you that instinct? What do you find in yourself?
You know it. There's nothing.
I do. I know.
So
I know it. I want them to hear that. I want our audience to hear that.
Look, we all know it. There's no instinct here. This is just life, man. Why is anyone even listening to this podcast? It is strictly so that they feel that they can connect with either me or you or both of us. That's it. It's all about connection.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's exactly, I'm really glad you said that. I think that's exactly one of the primary points, because one of the reasons why I love the UnDoctor and what you're saying is, and why I even asked that question, it is matter of factly understandable to you and I, but I don't think a number of people have broken out of the spell. So that's why I asked that. So people who are watching the podcast, just out of curiosity, maybe they have not identified that yet. And so that's why I think it's important to explore that question.
Yeah, I know that it's a standard question, but the answer is so obvious. So it's, sometimes if you frame the question like, when did I decide that I was going to become a rogue or something? I didn't decide to become a rogue. I decided to stay myself instead of being swept over by the spell, if you will. I mean, I wasn't. Okay. I didn't decide to break away from something. I decided not to join in the first place, and I think that's an interesting, important point. That it wasn't like I was the UnDoctor, but the UnDoctor is an affectionate moniker that a friend of mine gave me about 7 years ago, and I was at a Vision Quest with a bunch of men, and he was a branding expert, and he said they heard my story on the third day of 3, and he said, I got a brand name for you, came to me that I'm going to just give you, but it's going to fit you. And I said, go. He said, you're the UnDoctor. And I was like, I can roll with that. That's good. And I like it. So it's now become a little bit more of a part of me, but it says some different things. Different people get different views of what the UnDoctor is. I like being Dr. Fred. I don't really love being the UnDoctor. Although I will say this, my intention when I am playing the mental health game, which I'm playing less and less now because those 3 weeks have come. Yay. They came and went. I like the idea of like welcome to humanity. I like the idea of unconventionally and with unconditional love, we undiagnose, unmedicate, and undoctrinate people. I like that. I like that. And
I do too.
And I don't mean it to be it's not anti-psychiatry per se. I mean, it's just anti the way psychiatry is going. If we can help people, then that's called psychiatry. And the way to help people, I don't have anything that even comes near rivaling the power of a human connection. Ever. I've never seen anything more powerful. I've never experienced anything more powerful. I've never prescribed anything more powerful. I don't think there is anything more powerful. If in fact there is something more powerful than a human connection, and you really are sitting there in your seat and you're hearing me say this to you, yeah, what about blah, 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 and you got something that's more powerful than a human connection, then you should be doing that. You should go do that. You should go do that one like the rest of your life, whatever one that is.
Sure. For
dedicate your life to it. And if it's God, I got it. Okay. Some people say, what about God? Okay. I'm with you. Yeah. It's that's almost like an ultimate human experience. You make up who God is, you give him some human qualities, and now you and him got something going on that looks like a human connection on steroids.
I'm very curious, the God aspect, but then also going back, what do your colleagues think about your stance?
I'm not saying anything controversial. That's the bottom line. So I get to kind of buzz around and not say anything that controversial. So, to say they sort of taught this rhetoric. There's nobody's going to say Seroquel is more powerful than a human connection. No, it isn't. That Adderall is more powerful than a human. No, it isn't. I say it if you want, but no, it's not really an argument. All I'm really saying is that the human connection is what it is. It's human, and we're all human. I mean, most of us are human. At least some of us are human. I don't know how many of us are human, but that's a whole different question.
Well, no. So, Doc Fred, you can't get away from that one. So, what do you mean some of us are human? What are we alternatively?
I don't know, dude. There's a lot of talk about lots of stuff going on, but in these days,
right?
In these days of aliens, or these days of reptiles, or these days of ghosts, or these days of who knows, whatever you got going on, whatever you think you are, robots or bots, or there's things out there that probably aren't human and they look like they are or something. I'm not going to be so surprised that there's things out there that look human that if you did a full dissection of them, you'd see that they weren't.
What do you think?
About what?
About this whole alien disclosure and all these things where people are feeling quite overwhelmed with a lot of the information and re-questioning who they are as human beings. What do you think? I
think you should question who you are as a human being. As a primary goal is to question every single day who the hell you are as a human being. I think it's a great idea.
Like, who are we?
I don't know. We're a space for the experiences that we're having. We're an opportunity, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. You could say that, or you could say that we're certainly not just this skin bag of bones and like vital organs. We have I don't think I feel equipped to say exactly using words what we are as human. I believe that we resonate with each other at a certain frequency, and that if we clean ourselves up, in other words, if we take down if we take down the mud and the muck and the cobwebs of the off of ourselves, and give ourselves a pure possibility of having a frequency, a pure frequency, a human frequency, and we can reconnect with each other. That might be where our primary strength actually lies.
I dig that. That brings me into two places about men's mental health and some of your projects you have coming up. But before we do that, I'm very curious. So since we don't, it seems to me, and I got to say, Dr. Fred, of late, people really are questioning that question that we just talked about. Who are they? And they're not sure where to go with that. Psychiatry is a place that people have typically gone to be able to say, I need to find out myself. And so now, since your experience has taught you through these years, that's not necessarily the best route to go. How do they find out who they are? What is that journey?
Yeah, you move off the stuff that have gotten in the way of you finding out who you really are underneath. You don't have to go out there to go find out who you are. You're already that person, and you've like put stuff on top of you to obscure that, or to block that, or to pretend to be somebody that you're not in order to protect the person that you are. And you've done that. And when you move those things out, you get a better handle of who you really are, which has been here the whole time. He's sitting there underneath all of this and all the noise.
I'm curious with that. Do you find this a particular age where people are coming into this realization?
An age?
Yeah, like maybe 42, 39, 52.
No, I don't think that it's an age thing. I think that I think that it's an awareness thing. I think that it's a willingness just to look square into business. How long are you going to be duped by the idea that you're something different than you are?
And is there this awakening that's happening? Where do you see that? Because I'm hearing a number of different doctors and professors talk about that. Part of this is that there's this awakening that people are seeing.
I'm not sure. Again, I don't feel so equipped to make a statement, a global statement about whether or not there's an awakening. I think that some people are coming to grips with the idea that the way that they've been looking at things doesn't work, and that they're going to have to trade that in for something. And then so they trade it in for something different. And sometimes that is just realizing that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And that's kind of a cool way to be a human, is not having a clue about what's next.
I dig that. And now you mentioned men's mental health. There's two areas I want to address that somewhat segue into that. Today, men seem to have, I don't want this to come across the wrong way for we as men, but there seems to be a lack of relatability to what the identity of a man is today, and how men's mental health is being affected by that. What is men's mental health? What is the state of that as you see it?
Well, I think men are afraid to show their delicate emotions. I think men are afraid of being babies, and they're afraid of being girls. They're afraid of both of those things. They definitely don't want to be seen as a baby or seen as a girl. Not every single man. So whatever, it's not some men like being babies and love being girls. I get it. But in general, I think men are pretty interested in staying away from being seen as a baby, immature, or being seen as girls. And I think when they show themselves as being delicate, like that they got a tender underbelly of some sort, they are not so eager to display it or hold it as themselves, and to tell one on themselves, and to be honest about where they feel, where they feel vulnerable. So I think that, in mental health, if you can't really look at the things in your life that are creating discomfort for you, at least how you're perceiving those things, then I think you're selling off half the farm. And it's pretty impossible to create a relationship with only your cemented self out front.
Well, so people are on this journey and trying to find themselves. What's the best way for them to begin this journey? Especially men in particular, relationship to that.
I think the best way is to keep themselves clean. I think when you
meditate, what does that mean?
That means meditation. It means gratitude. It means watching what you put in your mouth, and watching what you watch, watching who you hang out with. It means being creative when you can, getting out in nature, taking care of pets, taking care of yourself. It means drinking lots of water. It means doing some walking, doing some writing, doing some reading. It means being of service. It means actually being somewhat spiritual, meaning considering the possibility that the world doesn't circulate around you. That's entirely possible that it doesn't circulate around you. And, really all of those things, when you clean up and do some of those things, any 2, 3, 4 of those things, your life takes on a whole new perspective. And all of a sudden, you're not your experiences, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. Even if you feel lousy, even if you feel violent, that doesn't mean that you have to you don't have to act on it, and you can actually own it, as I have these experiences. And men do get those experiences, and then they have a hard time actually metabolizing them.
And where do they go with that?
Like I said, I think if we go to some of those other practices and modalities that we talked about, that can be calmed down to the point where we realize that we aren't those things, even though we experience them.
I guess I meant metabolizing it.
Yeah, I think that, once it's metabolized, once we start declaring it, once we start speaking it to our loved ones, to our friends, to our siblings, um, there's there's an unearthing that happens. We get closer to our real self.
And when we discover the real self, how do we come to the conclusion? I've discovered this portion, especially men. When I'm talking about men's mental health, how do we discover we've reached the point of our real self?
I don't think that we ever will reach our point of our real self. There is no arrival to be expected. It's just a continual uphill battle. The life is an uphill climb, and you might as well enjoy the ride, enjoy the walk, because there is no, I have reached my real self. I think each and every one of us struggle with that every single day. We don't really even know what direction to go to become our real selves. And, we think that we're being our real selves when really all we're doing is imitating someone else that we admire. For instance, a very common one right there.
This ties in. You have an upcoming event with a number of great speakers that are addressing a number of the issues that are facing us today. Would you please enlighten us about it?
Oh, I think you're actually talking about the event next week rather than the event in September. So that's great. And so I've been honored to, what date is that? I think it's the 20th.
Oh boy, I had it. Oh,
the 20th. I think it's the 20th. I think it's Saturday.
Bring my notebook.
Saturday. It is. Yeah, and that's the Connection Leadership Authority, and there's just a bunch of people that are speaking on Saturday, and I happen to be lucky enough to be in that crowd. I guess they had to fill the slot with somebody, and I'm super excited.
I saw it. So Tell us about it. Tell us about your role in there as well.
Well, I think my role is to just speak a little bit to what we're talking about here, to actually speak a truth about what's going on in the world of mental health, or what's going on in the world of thinking that maybe there's nothing wrong with you. And then to just represent with some kind of authority all the many ways that human connection is at the heart of healing, and bringing forth the things that are in our way, that are typically in our way of being able to be connected with other people, which means becoming somewhat more aligned with who we really are, and then being courageous enough to bring that person forward rather than someone that we're not.
When we talk about who we really are, I think that whole, when we verbalize that, it's very broad. Now, you, as far as who you see in your patients, and when you're helping people to discover that, is there a way we can hone in on how a person can identify who they really are? And is it related to this conference coming up? What they might be able to discover to give them some of those tools?
Well, I don't know if the conference, I'm not sure if the conference, I think that it will address a lot of these men that are there, men and women who are talking at the conference are indeed extremely powerful. And have lots to say about the power of human connection. So I think there's that. But I mean, how do we know it's real? How do you know when you're eating a strawberry?
Neo, Matrix.
What happens? What happens when you're eating a strawberry? What happens where you're like, man, this is a strawberry? Like, we picked up some organic peaches this week, and it was like, they're just different, man. It was just it's just like, oh, this is a real peach. There's like, how do you describe that? Like, what's a mango? How do you describe that? Well, what's a real mango? Well, a real mango, I don't know. You get this reverberation that there's something very real and honest and powerful inside of being your real self. So there's just a greater sense of resonance, a greater sense of harmonic frequency.
Is that where we're at? It's a harmonic frequency?
Is that who is that?
Meaning we as a people, are we trying to find that harmonic?
That's all we are the whole time. Yeah, that's what you and I are doing now, is just playing music right here. That's all that's really happening.
Dr. Bright, explain that a little bit. I think people would be fascinated by that. What does that mean?
Think about it. What are you doing? You're just blowing air out of your mouth and making some kind of noise, and then that's all you're doing, and that's all we're doing. And I'm pretending to understand what you're saying by listening carefully.
Well, Dr. Fred, I don't know that that's supposed to be the answer. So, in blowing out the air.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I love having you on. So, you can't leave us just there. So, and blowing out the air.
That's all you're doing, man. That's all you're doing.
So in my head, I'm thinking, in me blowing out, the phrase keeps tickling me, but and blowing out this air, we're all on this journey about. I'm trying to find out who, as far as Seth Guru, I enjoy Dr. Fred because I feel that I resonate with him in finding about this human experience. I enjoyed that I'm talking to my boys, and we're on this discovery of our human experience. So so we're not just blowing out air. Oh, that tickles me.
Well, here's the thing. If you ask Miles what the hell he was doing, that's all he was doing too. That's really all he was doing, man. And it's all he was doing. He just sit back and wail. You practice, and then you sit back and wail. That's how you make music. And that's how we make music with each other. We're just kind of serving each other some musical notes right now. And that's all we're doing. And the closer we can get to actually having it come from our soul, the more likely we are to be understood and connected with. And that's where the high level frequency of being human comes into play.
So in that, do we discover our soul?
I don't know. Maybe we get closer. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we get closer. There's no arrival, man. I already said that. There's no like I got here, found my soul, I'm good. That doesn't happen.
Oh, you raise a very interesting pause point.
You can head in that direction, but don't expect to arrive.
Why not?
Because it's not happening in this lifetime. I don't know anybody else who did it, and it's unlikely to be you.
So wait, all these great thinkers and these great philosophers,
they didn't arrive. They didn't arrive. They got closer and closer and closer. There's nobody who's like, I found my soul, I'm good. I can't be. Not quite. You're always
I got to tell you,
always got a pathway in front of you.
So there's three people I felt myself who have arrived. So I immediately think of when I thought of Alvin Toffler, Future Shock, and I mention him a lot on my program. Alvin Toffler, C.S. Lewis, Hugh Prather Jr., who wrote "I Touch the Earth Touches Me." And one of the most eloquent things I've ever heard him say was that when he came into contact with touching the present, was he touched a leaf of a flower, and he felt the eternal moment of himself. And so I think of some of those cats as persons who have arrived. Have they not? Is that what we're saying?
Have not. Ask them. The fact that you think so doesn't mean that they have. Ask them if inside of their soul they arrived. Because I don't think they would say they did. They'd say they're still on a journey. And once you go on a journey and you keep going, it looks to the general public like maybe you've arrived because they went past you. So you feel like they're out there, whatever, like these C.S. Lewis and Future Shock dude and all that. And I just think that really we can think that I figured you were going to say like Jesus, Buddha, and Moses, and that's fine. You could go there, but look, the fact that it's even news that these guys exist, it proves my point that it isn't what naturally occurs. You'd still have to question whether Jesus, Moses, Buddha, Toffler, you'd have to really question whether they have arrived or whether we just want to give them those accolades.
Well, now you bring up, you see, I didn't go that way because I was just thinking about the humanity of the experience. Because to me, I would think Jesus has arrived. I would think that he was the epitome of that human experience where he's arrived in that sense. And I didn't include him in that sense only because to me, I was thinking about welcome to humanity, meaning that we're on this pursuit and this journey. And and actually, Doc, I think maybe more so I'm playing devil's advocate, no pun intended. But I think that in the human experience, I'm trying to say that we want to get to this place of healing. So when I was a kid, I had all this hurt and pain, and I've learned on this journey. I've gotten therapy. I've been a psychologist. I've had horrible experiences, and I feel that it is a continual journey of healing. Me as a male, and then when I talk to other men, we feel that. But I think there are examples that we've looked at, and some of those examples are who I mentioned. And in particular, Jesus is an example of human experience of perfection. And then even Buddha and some of these other cats who have gone in this journey of self-discovery. And I don't know. I think maybe their arrival, maybe that's what I'm trying to see. Maybe the arrival is discovering we're on this journey. Maybe we'll agree on that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, if you want to arrive at the idea that you haven't arrived yet, then I'm okay with that.
I don't know that I want that as an answer. I want Dr. Fred to have a different answer than that.
No, if I look, the closest you're going to get to arrival is in the world of now. You can buzz by arrival. You can be like, I am where I am, and I'm glad to be exactly here. And there's no place I'd rather be than exactly here, with everything exactly as it is. When you can come to tune with embracing all that is, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or terrible, or horrific, or wonderful, or beautiful, or miraculous, when you can come to grips with this now being all that there is, I think that might be an essence of arrival for that very second. It usually lasts for less than a nanosecond, but it's, because we got to find shit to do in an instant.
For me, it lasted about 3 weeks, dude.
Mm-hmm.
When I first came to this place, it lasted about 3 weeks. No,
good. I don't know.
Wait, so Doc Fred, so you don't feel you arrived? You just feel
I'm not arrived. I got stuff to do. I got places to go. I got to keep moving. There's no arrival. I don't have any myth that I'm gonna get somewhere during this lifetime that I can say, okay, I made it. I've had a pretty good life. I got great kids. I'm still alive. I got a great wife. My health is okay. I have a growing bunch of people who actually care a little bit about what I say, and I get to travel a little bit, and I've met great people. I eat great food. I know good practices. I had a really, really fine life, but I wake up in the morning miserable, bro.
Why, Kat? Okay, what's that about, Kat?
Because I don't have it figured out yet. I'm like, why the fuck do we got to even wake up? I mean, what is there to do? Aren't we done yet?
Wait, Kat. No. Okay. Okay. We got to unroll that. What does that mean?
I wake up tired. I wake up not getting it yet. Nothing has fallen into place. I don't have my bearings. I don't have my out of bounds or inbounds. I don't have my purpose. I forgot why I was here. I forgot what I was up to. Nothing is exciting to me. And it can be pretty tiring. It can be, I want to just crawl back in bed. It's hard to be alive. It's hard to be alive, bro. It's hard to be alive. Definitely.
See, you know what? I'm really glad you said that. This is a very candid portion of the conversation. I'm going to be very vulnerable. I feel it is hard to be alive, but I feel it's great to be alive.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point in my life, I feel, to me, one of the blessings, and I say this even though we've had a difficult time trying to reconnect for this interview, I got to say, you are one of the blessings I found in my life. I feel that your wisdom has been very enlightening to me and to other men. I feel that in part of my enjoying to be alive was discovering cats that have different perspectives that are saying, here's some other stuff to consider. Now, in me personally, I do feel like Jesus being that example is a great reason to be alive in this life, but it doesn't exclude that things are really crappy right now for a lot of us. But I think that cats like yourself are very encouraging, that help us to go like this. Hey, you know what we've learned, unlearn it. And that was one of the best things I've ever heard you say. I listened to this other portion you gave as a speech, and it was like, I'm going to paraphrase this and mess it up a little bit, but it was basically saying the best thing you can do is unlearn what you've learned.
Yeah, that's right.
And to me, when I wake up in the morning, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my patty cakes, my granddaughter, and my Parker. I'm grateful that I can say to a lot of dudes, and especially Black men and Hispanic men, when I say, check out this cat, Dr. Fred, because he's one of those cats that's saying, even though we've gone over some of the questions that say, do we come to this point? But that's on this journey. Your information is a part of the journey of healing. And I do feel that in this lifetime, however long we live, we're on this journey, and we can come to this place. And some of the arrival I alluded to earlier is realizing we are on a journey. To me, that is a great thing in that sense. So that's some of the stuff where I feel that. But I'm very curious, because I do know a lot of cats, and I'm really glad you mentioned that they're saying waking up is such a hard thing nowadays. And I want to question that. I want to ask you, why has that become so challenging? I don't know that it was always so challenging for us in the past. What occurred that happened?
There's a lot of sludge, a lot of lies. There's a lot of hopelessness. There's a lot of concern about whether or not we're ever going to recover from the divots that are in between us all, whether we're ever going to be able to communicate as a group together, whether we're ever going to be able to give respect to the people who disagree with us about important issues. Are we going to be able to understand and listen and be with and connect with people who are diametrically opposed to us in various important areas? Because right now we just cancel them, we just block them, we just say goodbye to them and never talk to them again. Even if we liked everything about them except the one thing they said about that's enough to cancel them. And so people are not getting a chance to communicate. If we don't learn how to communicate together, we're curtains, bro. And I don't like the idea of being curtains.
Oh, dig it. So wait, two things you said in there, I think are really great to unpack. So wait, curtains. What does curtains mean? We're curtains. What happens to civilization if we're curtains?
I don't know. Done somehow. There's all sorts of ways we could end. We could end it. I don't have to pick which one is going to win. It's not that hard to imagine the world ending today, for God's sake. So what?
So wait, so the work that you're doing, some of it, if you don't mind being so candid, Dr. Fred, some of it sounds very pessimistic. Does optimism have a fit? Hold on. Does optimism have a fit in here?
You have a choice to see things any way you want. I mean, I'm not making something up by suggesting that the world could end today. Come on, that's not pessimistic.
No, for sure. I don't even want to suggest it. I know you're not. I think we're talking real talk. I think that we are on the precipice of that.
Yeah.
But I think I do feel that I'm going to say something extremely corny here, but I do feel there's something to the expression looking at a cup half empty or a cup half full. And I think that the cup half full means we have work to do to fill it up. Do you see the cup half full or half empty?
I see it however I see it at whatever time I'm looking at it. Sometimes it's half full, sometimes it's half empty. We don't have control.
So it can change.
It can definitely change. We don't get control over our first thought. We can control over our thought about that thought, but thoughts just come and go. We don't call them in.
So now the work that you're doing, to me, is extremely valuable. And you have another event that you mentioned briefly in September coming up. And so those works are to help us do what? Because, again, I don't see it as futile or anything. Please, I don't want that to be mistaken as my thought here in this direction. So the work that you're doing is to help people come to this conclusion of you keep on striving every day. So what is the ultimate goal when in the next few years? In people doing the work of welcome to humanity. Welcome to what? What about humanity are they coming into?
Human connection is the heart of all healing, of all conditions, of all type, everywhere. When they get that, and there was nothing wrong with them ever, that's when we're in a good way. When we finally get
discovery.
It's a discovery that there never was anything wrong with you, that was the illusion that there was ever anything wrong with you. There never was. We don't blame a log for burning in the fire. We don't have to blame you for living a life that essentially can't be lived.
So now a lot of people have endured certain tragedies during their youth, and those things have created something where they feel something is wrong with them. Was they've experienced pain and suffering, whatever that might have been.
Yeah.
Where do they fit in this whole thing?
Yeah, pain and suffering happen for sure. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That means you had pain and suffering just, it's like a log burning about, complaining about the flame. It's like, I get it, man. It's hard to be alive. It's hard to be alive. It's hard to be alive.
I agree.
It's hard to be alive. I'm not diminishing that in any way by saying there's nothing wrong with you. In fact, I'm doing the opposite. I'm saying, yep, it's hard to be alive and welcome to humanity.
Dig it. Now, tell me something. Do you find there's a difference in men of different ethnicities and so forth that have a different suffering, or is the suffering or I don't even know that the suffering is necessarily the best way for me to put it, but that seems the easiest. Is there, to me, I personally don't know that there is necessarily a racial difference in how all of us suffer. I think we have different pain points and different things that we're trying to heal from. And it's irregardless of the racial aspect or the ethnicity. But medically and as a professional, have you seen something that's different within those genres?
I don't think I can say that I have. I don't section people out in that way about their emotions. So I don't know about any certain ethnical, we'll call it, tendency. I'm not sure. And I certainly don't think that it's anywhere in the physiology of any ethnicity for sure.
And do you see men more unhealthy today than when you first started in your practice?
Humans, many humans are much less healthy than when I started. Yeah.
So men not necessarily, because we heard this term masculine, was it
Toxic man.
masculine toxicity,
Yeah.
toxic men. Is there, what do you think about that? I find sometimes that term really nauseates me.
Yeah, it can be weaponized.
Like
The term can be weaponized. It can be weaponized. I understand how it got its roots. I'm not here to, decide whether or not it's legitimate. It can be weaponized. It is a thing. It's a thing because it's in the conversation. We all know what we think we're talking about when we put those two words together. But I think the toxicity runs through humanity. I don't think that it's toxic masculinity alone. I think that humanity has become more and more toxic.
Please elaborate.
We don't even eat food anymore, man. It's not, none of that stuff that we eat is even bona fide food. I mean, we say and do things that are mean and jealous provoking, and we're violent, and we're not really here to keep each other healthy anymore. I'm not saying anything very controversial.
I don't think it's controversial. I just don't think that people are hearing it as often from such a clear person as yourself. And I find like it's very refreshing for someone to mention that's been in the field of mental health, to be able to say that. I don't know that's different. So where do we go from here?
I think the only space to really take care of is yourself. Ultimately, if you want to provide for others, if that's how you want to take care of yourself, that's great. I think that, being of service is a very high honor, and tends to serve a lot of check boxes of having a purposeful life. So I encourage people who want to keep doing that to keep doing that. And I don't know. I mean, the world could end this afternoon, Seth. Let's face it. And if it does, then you just do your very best until the last minute of the game. Just play the thing out.
So, Dr. Fred, is this fatalism?
I don't know. The world can end this afternoon. It's just the truth, man. I don't know.
I agree. No, I agree. Again,
I don't know. I'm not saying the world will end this afternoon. I think that would be more touch fatalism. But could it end this afternoon? Of course it could. That's not fatalism. That's just a reality, man. Of course it could.
And that's why I asked. It's only a question as opposed to a statement. And then a number of the work that you're doing is getting us in a direction of trying to heal so we can make things better. And I want people to hear, like, to me, again, I mentioned that when I hear you, I see optimistic reasons to think about the future. So what are the words that you would say in particular to men? Because I think that men, in the effeminization of men, I find that very distressing, because my dad was a World War II veteran and fought in 3 wars. And in addition to him being a great deal older when he had his second set of kids, there was a different set.
I got you, Seth.
Of established rules of manhood. And I've noticed in particular with my boys and how their generation of the 30s and 20s that have gotten a whole different set of rules. And now some people even would say, hey, yo, Seth, you have earrings, you have a nose ring, you have dreads, long hair. That maybe that's part of their feminization. Some people can say some of those things, but I know the set of principles I live by are traditionally male, in a sense where I feel very comfortable with that. I have a very self-awareness of my malehood. And in today's society, I feel that the male dynamic in mental health and perception of one's male gender and identity has been lost. And I don't know that some of the younger cats really get that. You have any input on that?
Well, it's a can of worms for sure. And
it is.
I think that the ambiguity on the edges of, of definitions and truths of sexuality and gender.
While you're thinking, I just want to add this. It's not a slight against homosexuality or anything. That's its own other bag of stuff.
Sure.
Just the masculine identity is what I'm addressing, that I feel that because even some of those guys during my dad's time, they had their own set of issues down low or whatever. And that's its own thing, transgenderism and all that stuff. I just feel that we've had this fast increase of a lack of substantial identity of what the masculine role is or masculine identity. So that's all I'm trying to ask you, if you have input on that.
Well, I think the real question is, I think every man, no matter if he's like flaming or if he's like a sergeant in the army or a Marine, or if he's a street junkie or something, I think they're all men. They're all just men. We're all men, and there's no masculine base to build that around. It's inherent in being a man. I mean, there's a lot of ways to express being a man, and each and every one of them have their ways.
Yeah,
they stay men. Please. They stay men just as much as anyone who pretends to be more of a man than them.
And I think that's where I slide on that. Now, I think the other thing is, having strong identification gender roles, though the gender roles don't have to indicate any of the things we already mentioned. Do you see that between 45-year-olds to 75-year-olds versus 44-year-olds to 22-year-olds, is there a stronger or a more visible difference in mental health as far as men go, where you see an improvement and or a decline?
So I don't have an improved or declined mental health. We're all mentally as healthy as each other. We're logs burning in a fire. So
I like that. I like that. Logs burning in a fire. Wait, yeah. So now trip out, because I'm semantical sometimes, Doc. So are some logs burning faster and some logs burning slower?
Sure, of course. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. Some will burn faster and some will burn slower. But yeah, we don't blame a log for burning in a fire. And so I think that however the 22 to 21 to 44, whatever you said, or 45 to 65, however they're handling it, I just tend not to group people by ages or ethnicities, I guess. I just like, we're all just doing our very best to take the next step in a world without a recipe book, without an owner's manual, without an instruction guide, and none of us know what the hell we're doing, and we pretend like we do, and some of us really pretend like we do, and then we follow those people because they must know what they're doing, so we're gonna be like them. But it's a funny world. It's a funny world where none of this stuff is very well done.
I'm glad, because a lot of these are just questions. I think I agree with you a lot more than what my questions might assume. But I do want to ask you a very important question. Where does God fit in?
One of my mentors was Werner Erhard, and he used to answer this question because do landmark education or EST, all the stuff that he's led. He was, I did a lot of landmark education in my past. He used to answer this question as like, well, it's above my pay grade.
No, Doc. No, I don't want you to get away with that. No, I want your pay grade included in that. You personally, do you see a spiritual aspect that should be included, even if you say somewhat of a?
I already said that you should have something greater than yourself, so you don't fall for the illusion that the world circulates around you, and that's really important. And then, I believe in God, but that doesn't mean that you should or that I'm right. That's completely up to you how you manage all this, completely. And so it's not like I believe in God and you have to too. I don't have that going on. Or that if you don't, you're wrong. I don't even have that going on. It's just that, for me, it's like, where else to go but up? All these other places don't work.
Doug, so, you make me really think about this perspective, in light of alien documents being unleashed and JE files and presidential backtracking and all of the things we've already mentioned. What's your view as far as mental health in the future, considering AI is becoming a part of it? What do you see?
Again, I don't see myself as a clairvoyant prognosticator, that's for sure.
Okay. And I don't mean that.
And so, I think though, I think that we have thought there's no population that you can look back on who didn't think that they were living the worst of times. Everybody has always thought they were living the worst of times and the best of times. So you could always make a case for that. So the future, it remains unclear. I like I said, sometimes like when I fall into the gap of, okay, that should do it. That's enough. Someone's going to push a button today. I mean, or something's going to happen today. And then I wake up.
You're not supposed to say that, Doc.
And then I wake up the next morning. I'm like, what? All right. I guess I got something else to do.
Wait. So you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, they didn't push the button?
That's right.
Doc Fred, that's not the answer I expected, dude. Oh no. Wait, Doc Fred, that's not.
That's right.
Dig it.
For sure.
That's not what I expected.
Are you kidding? You didn't push the button and you had the opportunity yesterday. What made you not do it?
Well, how about this? That there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and some people are still kind of like, you don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like on the other side of the tunnel. I don't know. I don't know.
Where does love fit in?
What's that?
Where does love fit in?
Love is the answer. Love is the essence of human connection. Love is what makes the world go round. All you need is love. I'd say love is the thing, man. Love is just human connection taken to the next level.
So, Doc, I really appreciate your graciousness, because I know I had a number of different things that were really, I don't know if esoteric's the right word, but kind of eclectic in their nature to get some answers from you, because I really value your opinion, and not necessarily do I disagree with a great deal of them, but in saying so, your candid nature of answering them and responses, I really appreciate. Sure. So I want to ask you, what do you have going on that you want to let our audience know about that they should be in touch with?
Well, I'm writing my memoirs, and this is so fantastic. Today has been such a big day about this, and I think your audience can learn. First of all, I strongly suggest that if someone wants to write their memoirs, they should do it. You shouldn't do it if you don't want to, but if you want to, go, man, just go, get the thing started. Because I have written my whole life. I've written about my whole life now in the last few months. Every story I could think of, as honorable and real as I could. I've, helped with the computer to create a document that was, that's expected to make a big difference in the world of mental health, and also to let people see who real Fred Moss is. And to me, that's a conversation, and, so I wrote it, and then I was ready to submit it because it scored A's when I showed it to that LLM, and they said A+, it's an A+ book. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I realized it needed some more editing, because there were some stories that got written not even necessarily directly by me. Like the Claude had added some stuff that I didn't quite think I said.
Was it reading your mind, dude?
Claude is an amazing creature for sure. And I then went back and I started editing. And so today I've been editing, and it's been a blast. I've been able to dictate my chapters. Like, Claude asks me certain areas about my book, like, did I mean this or did I mean that, or which word there? And I get to answer like this Fred Moss, which is then permeating and getting into the book for real, for who I am today. It's astonishing experience. So cool. So cool.
How soon will you be releasing it?
That one is suspected to be done by July 15th, but I suppose
of this year.
Right now, yeah, 4 weeks. We're at final.
What's the title?
Welcome to Humanity.
Dig it. And when will it be available?
Psychiatrist case against the mental health system. It'll be available. If you'd like, we can put you on the list of early readers, and all I'd want from you is a testimonial like you've done before. And
I would love that.
Yeah, we can get you on that list. No problem. That'd be great. And then, so you'll have an early copy, probably even by next week.
I really like that. And Doc, You're my dude. I say this so many times, and again, this was one of our different kind of conversations because the first time we went a different way. But I just appreciate your candid nature. But I just think you're one of the coolest cats ever, and I respect your perspective a great deal. I think it's worth examining for a number of people. I feel that. Even in answers of I don't know, they are extreme. The honesty of them give solutions and answers that sometimes we just don't know.
Yeah.
I think we have certain certitudes. There's certain things I feel very certain about. I do feel very certain myself about God and certain things of about love and harm of people and those kind of things. But I just find not only refreshing that you as the UnDoctor, or even if you don't like that moniker, but I appreciate the fact that you're there for people to be able to say, I have a safe space to don't know. And I always thank you for that perspective. You're just one of the chillest dudes I know, and the most realest kind of cats that are in the profession, where I really value the respect. Value and respect who you are and how you represent that. And your experience is really valuable to us.
I appreciate that. It's very honorable.
Always.
And I appreciate it. Embrace, hug. You got you. I hope.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fred, for coming on. I was looking forward to the second time. I keep saying, I know you're very busy, but I keep saying,
yeah, you're
got this kind of vibe. I want to get you back on like once a month, the UnDoctor moment. I know you got your own podcast and business stuff, but I just always really appreciate your contribution.
I got it. Thank you so much.
It's really special to me. Absolutely, my brother. Absolutely, my brother. Absolutely. Again, you cats, this is Dr. Fred and the UnDoctor. And even though he said he doesn't like that, I hope he allows me a little space to not get on my case for saying that one more time. But how much we love him on the Seth Garu podcast and on Makerspar. And please check out his work, check out his website, check out his book that's coming out, which I'm excited to read about. And do know Dr. Fred is a big part of what I always tell my audience about. You've heard the revolution will not be televised, but at the end of each of my broadcasts, I always talk about the revolution not being just one of the revolution. It is a love-olution. The revolution is one of love. And when we contribute our thoughts and our input and our fire to a revolution of love, the love-olution will occur. And we will make things happen and change. Dr. Fred, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You all be good to each other and understand you are a part of the Love-olution, as is myself and Dr. Fred. Peace and goodwill to all good men. And we're looking forward to unanswered questions in the future. Makerspar, Seth Guru Podcast out. Thank you, Dr. Fred.
Thank you, Seth.
Absolutely. Thank you.